Baltimore and Twins, who probably can't get the hell out of town soon enough. Luke Jones joins us now to discuss an evening where it kind of makes me wish we had signed Irvin Santana, right, Luke?
Yeah, I had that conversation with a few different folks. You and I talked about this when we were previewing this series. Irvin Santana, keep in mind, it's not as though things have gone perfectly for this guy over the last few years. Remember, he had the PED suspension a couple years ago. But you certainly look at his body of work at the point when the Orioles were pursuing both Jimenez and Santana, and you really wish the Orioles had gone the extra mile to sign Santana, because he at least is someone who at times has pitched like an ace, other times has just been rock solid.
Well, some people would tell you there were times that Ubaldo looked like an ace for about a week and a half last summer, right?
I was going to say, a few very brief times Ubaldo Jimenez has looked like that. But Santana, this season, boy, it's just been ridiculous. And what's crazy about it is not necessarily blowing away hitters. He had 6 strikeouts against the Orioles on Tuesday night. He pitched exceptionally well, but really just mixed his pitches well and induced a lot of weak contact, a lot of, didn't get into any deep counts. In fact, I'll give you the stat of the night. He retired the final 14 Orioles hitters on, get this, 42 pitches.
Incredible.
That's incredible. It's a testament to him, but on the flip side,
that's single digit. That's averaging 9 pitches an inning. That's insane.
That's
right?
That's 3 pitches per hitter. The final
and getting them all out, by the way, too. It was a 2-hitter.
Yeah. So give him plenty of credit. Don't misconstrue, but at the same time, that was not a representative effort there. that was a going through the motions.
Below the bar, as John Harbaugh would say, right?
It felt like how when you wake up, sometimes it's rainy, it's dreary out, and you feel like staying in bed, and you don't really have that energy level like you normally do. That's what the Orioles looked like last night. Sans Dylan Bundy, who pitched really well and deserved a lot better, just was not that was one of those performances. And you know me, I'm not the type that throws out terms like listless and things of that nature.
They are listless right now, dude. They've won 3 times in 3 weeks. They're not playing good baseball right now.
No, they're not. They're losers of 9 of their last 12, and the good news is that they're in a position that that they're still right there in the division. The Yankees have cooled off. The rest of the division kind of playing 500 ball over the last week to 10 days, and that's the good news. But they got to turn this thing around. It's been pretty ugly. They've got to be better than what they've been showing of late, and if not, then they're going to find themselves behind the 8 ball a little bit as far as falling behind the Yankees, who have fortunately cooled off. But right now they're reeking of that team that struggles. Right? They pitched very poorly on Monday night. On Sunday and Tuesday, they pitched really well, and what happened? They didn't score any runs. So it's one of those things that they're better than what they've shown over the last 2 weeks. I completely believe that. Well, just like I wasn't convinced that they were truly as good as a 22-10 mark to begin the season. So where they fall, somewhere in the middle. You hope closer to the 22-10 mark, but it's certainly been a rough go of it, and disappointing because Dylan Bundy pitched really, really well. Another outing where he goes at least 6 innings. He's done that in all 10 of his starts. You can't ask for any more from him. You'd like him to pitch a shutout, but you give up 2 runs over 7 innings. That should be good enough to win anytime you go out there.
He is Luke Jones. He's covering all things Orioles baseball. He'll be back for the capper in the Wednesday afternoon game. But let's talk about Bundy and where he is at this point. And there's a lot of things going on here, right? To me, this is kind of slippery, right? You're having problems at the bottom of the rotation on a night when you get a quality start, you can't hit the baseball. No one's coming to the baseball games unless they're giving out a T-shirt or giving out a bobblehead. To me, that's pretty obvious. You sat out there. The weather hasn't been good. It's been quiet. And then there's Machado. And let's work backwards, from good to bad. They did lose. Dude, the Machado at bat in the 9th inning, And what he's batting and where he is right now, and this thing with the Red Sox, which is going to regurgitate itself all over again a week from now because you're going to see him again next week, and where his stature in the game on this team, whether he's a leader, whether he's worth $400 million a year, all that's getting real heavy, and dude's batting .219, and when he strikes out on an awful pitch, and the ball hits the dirt, and he makes no movement, no effort at all to run the first base, I say that the Yankees can't get here and pay him $400 million quick enough because I don't like the direction this is trending. And I know, you've said some things to me on the air, off the air about his personality, the way he is in the locker room, that he's a star. That was something I would remember if I were Peter Giangelos and stroking the pen to give Manny Machado $325 million 18 months from now. Like, dude, you're losing by 2 runs, Trumbo's up next, and the ball's in the dirt, and you're going to hang head and pound sand and walk back to the dugout? That was weak, bro, really weak.
Well, what I disliked even more than that was the ball that fell foul that wasn't an easy play back in the 5th inning, I guess it was. It was kind of an over-the-shoulder kind of catch. Wasn't an easy play, but it's a catch that he normally makes. And frankly, it was a catch that needed to be made considering the jam that Dylan Bundy was in at the time. So I think Buck Showalter, who was very good at being subtle in making observations to the media, he made a point. He didn't name any names, so this is just me drawing my own conclusion. Look, I mean, they had 2 hits on Tuesday night, so it's not like Manny Machado was the only one struggling at the plate. But he made a point where he said sometimes you get into points where some hitters are struggling with struggling, and that to me screamed Manny Machado on Tuesday night. Body language wasn't good. You wonder if the struggles at the plate have now trickled out to the field. And look, I still say exactly what I've said to you over the last few weeks. I still think Manny Machado is going to be fine. I absolutely think that. I'll still, I'll bet you dinner that he's not hitting 220 a month from now, and he's hitting much better than that because a lot of the peripheral stats of batting average, balls in play, exit velocity, all of that says he's hitting in tough luck, and it's not as though he's diminished as far as making contact. It's just he's not getting the results he typically does. So all that being said, you'd like to see better body language, and you certainly would like to see better effort than what we saw on that 5th inning pop-up and what we saw in that 9th inning at bat. He's struggling. And one thing I think we do need to remember with him, and we've talked about this at various points, as much as we think of him as being a grizzled veteran at this point because he's 6 years into this thing, or 5 years into this thing as a major leaguer. He's not quite 25 years old. He'll turn 25 in July.
He also feels very coddled to me. You know what I mean? It feels like all this has been very easy for him as a number 1 draft pick. And I don't want to say the rehabs on the knees and all that stuff because he had to meet his maker in the training room as well. And look, if there's anything I've learned from 25 years of doing this, it's, I respect what these guys do, and I respect how hard it is to go out there, but I also respect an effort. That's the Dundalk in me, right? And like, you want to make all this money, you want to be a star, you want to be beloved, you want a statue, you want people to talk about you like you're Brooks Robinson. Brooks Robinson wouldn't have jaked it like that, and he was jaking it, and when the team needs you the most, and when you're going the worst. I mean, this is the worst spell in his career, injury notwithstanding, and that's a whole different level when you can't walk, and I've been there too, and I remember having conversations with lots of athletes over the years before I had an injury of my own to understand what pain's about and what the training room and trainers are about. I get all of that, but when you're not making an effort to hustle to first base, guess who else is seeing that? Me, you, Buck, Peter, Dan Duquette, Adam Jones, J.J. Hardy. I mean, anybody else, Trumbo, who's on deck. Dude, that's not a good look. That's not a good look in T-ball. That's not a good look in rec ball, pony ball, any ball. And if Buck didn't pull his ass up after the game, I'd be shocked, quite frankly, because I don't think Buck stands for that.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about it. It's been addressed before in the past, the times where he hasn't run the first base. I mean, we've talked, this is nothing new. It's just right now it's magnified when you're hitting 219. I mean, that's just, that's the reality of it. I'm not making excuses for him. I saw what you saw on Tuesday night. I don't think it's the end-all, be-all that he's spiraling downward rapidly. He's struggling right now. And, it's something that you need to maintain that same level of energy and effort.
By the way, this may be the first time he's struggled at baseball, right? I mean, even with his knees and all of that, this is... and it's getting heavier because tick-tock, someone's going to be waving a $300 million check. But that being said, the kid's rich already, you know what I mean? It's not like the kid has to worry about where he's going to get his next meal tomorrow morning. So then it's just about the game, and the game's hard. Buck always says that. The game's hard for everybody, but when the game hasn't been as hard, that's when you need to work harder. And I don't know that I'm seeing that right now. I mean, look, they're playing at lunchtime. Maybe Buck says sit this one out. I don't know. I mean, this is certainly a time for Buck to read the tea leaves, and he's certainly better at it than any of us at this point.
Yeah, and again, look, Manny Machado works hard. I think we got to be very careful. You aren't as good as he's been at this point in his career on just being talented. No, he's really talented. That's obvious, but this kid works hard, but right now, the energy level doesn't look like where it needs to be. I think that's stating the obvious. But, as far as you made the point about him struggling and not having a period like this, about the only time I can think about it, second half of 2013. Remember, had the big first half, made the All-Star team, was hitting over 300, was hitting so many doubles. Then the second half of the season, he hit 240, and, numbers really tailed off. But probably that's about the last time that he's had this much of an extended period of time where he's just not getting results. So, again, I still think he's going to be fine. I think a lot of the issues you bring up are valid as far as, he's not a guy who's known for his hustle in the same way that Chris Davis always hustles down the first base. Adam Jones, except for the isolated time, which you called him out for in Boston, but you look at Adam Jones as a whole over the last 5-6 years, really since Buck Showalter came into town, a guy who hustles down the first base, a guy who, even in defeat, even in some of these games where, look at Monday night's game, made a really nice running catch when the Orioles were down by multiple runs at that point in time. You'd like to see a little more Adam Jones, a little more Chris Davis from that aspect, the hustle aspect, let's say, in Manny Machado. I'll agree with that, and I don't think that's any secret. And I think that's something that, Manny Machado's got to decide still at this still early stage of his career, what kind of player does he want to be? And, the one comment that I've heard Buck Showalter make, and he's even made this publicly, so it's not as though I'm talking out of turn here. Manny Machado is so good, so talented, sometimes he looks like he gets a little bored out there, and I think he does lose some focus. And that's not an excuse. That's not a good thing, by the way. But I think they're...
The game comes easy. I don't mean that to be to be ignorant of the facts of his hard work and all of that, but he has made this look easier. And look, Harper was doing that until he got hurt last year. Trout every day goes out there and makes it look easy. And I know it's not easy. If it was easy, you and I would be doing it. I mean, I get that. But I know one thing that's easy to do. Have your head in the game and hustle.
Sure.
That's what you're getting paid to do. That's what makes you truly special. That's what made Brooks Robinson and Jim Palmer and Eddie Murray and any of the other guys that have statues out there. What made them special over the long term was that their head was in the game.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned Bryce Harper, which obviously he and the juxtaposition of him and Machado is going to be there because they're both going to be free agents at the end of next year. But the interesting, Harper, especially when Matt Williams was his manager. Remember, there were a couple times where he didn't run the first base, and he actually got pulled from games. And whether that's the solution or not, I don't know. But it's been addressed in the past. I'm guessing in some form what we saw Tuesday night will be addressed or has been addressed already. But it's clear they need better from him. There's no doubt about that. We've talked about that. I mean, you're talking about a guy who, if not 300, certainly should be in that 285, 290 range. And, the other thing that we haven't talked about quite as much, he's been a little more pull happy this year. And I think we saw that second half of last year when you saw the numbers tail off a bit compared to what we saw in the first half. He's getting into that, that long ball mode a little bit too much. When Machado's at his best, I mean, he's hitting line drives all over the field. He's still hitting plenty of home runs in the process, but you're seeing him hit more doubles. And one thing we haven't seen from him as much this year as we've seen in the past. And look, back in 2013, he was a doubles machine, and he wasn't a guy who hit a ton of home runs. But even last year when he hit 37 home runs, he still had 40 doubles. Manny Machado so far now more than a quarter of the way through the season. Guess how many doubles he has? 7. So that tells you that the power hasn't been where it needs to be. Slugging percentage the last couple of years has been over 500. Right now he's slugging 435. So I still think he's going to be fine long term, but it's clear the Orioles need more from him. And oh, by the way, they need more offensively from a few other guys in their lineup right now.
All right, so preview us through this. I mean, they're going to go to Houston this weekend, take on the best team in baseball. The good news is they don't see Keuchel. The bad news is they're going to see Barrios. The bad news is they saw Santana. You go through these stretches where, they've had some good fortune. We sit here and talk about this every day. There are definitely times where they've gone places and missed the other team's best starter. This isn't one of those times. But in Houston, they'll get a little bit of a break, right?
Yeah, they will, and that's a good thing because we remember what happened last year when they went to Houston. What struck out was it 52 times in three game series, just incredible.
Yeah, well, Keuchel was on turn to pitch Saturday against Miley, and obviously that's not going to.
And now he's on the DL.
Yeah, McCullers.
Right?
They'll see McCullers this weekend, though. So.
Yeah, it's just right now this team's scuffling. There's no way to sugarcoat it. I mean, they've been playing very poorly over the last 2 weeks, and when you're playing poorly, it feels like you're never going to win a game again, and when you hit, you don't pitch. When you pitch, you don't hit, and that's what the Orioles have been. So,
well, they lost 5 one-run games in a row, right? Then they had that slugfest in the middle. Yeah. Then, the last couple of days, it's you get a 5-0 lead, you can't hold it, you give up 14 runs, and the next night you get 2 hits. So, I mean, it really... other than kicking the ball around a lot, and they even did that the other day, I don't know what there is to feel good about this right now other than get an afternoon game in, get a day off, get down into the blimp down in Houston and, try to get 2 out of 3 and try not to strike out 20 times a game.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those stretches where when you watch them play, you think, man, these guys aren't going to win many games moving forward. But on the flip side, it wasn't that long ago they were 12 games over 500, and I knew they weren't that good either. So, you kind of you see how it plays out. They clearly need to pitch better overall. It was good to see Bundy do what he did. You're hoping that Kevin Gausman follows it up and kind of builds on what he did over the weekend, which wasn't great. Had a lot of base runners, gave up 10 hits, but was able to. You're hoping he can follow that up. And most importantly. When we talked about today, the finale of this 3-game set, you're hoping Chris Tillman can build on what he did. So if you can get those 3 guys, and Bundy's been fine from day one this year, but if you can get Tillman and Gausman situated here, you get them straightened out here, you start to feel a lot better about things, even with Jimenez and what's going to happen with him and Miley and whoever's going to replace Jimenez if they make a change. And you get those top 3 going, then things get easier. And that's not to say that it's easy, but it becomes easier, and certainly you feel better about the bullpen, even without Zach Britton, if you get starters consistently getting through 6 innings at least. And they just haven't had enough of that, but you hope Tillman can continue that, and then you hope as we get into Houston over the weekend that Kevin Gausman can build on his last start as well.
All right, Luke will be out in Owings Mills for all things Ravens on Thursday. The Orioles taking a little downtime. You can find him out at Baltimore. Luke, you can find me, Nasty at WNST.net. Together we're out in the morning newspaper each and every morning. That's all brought to you by Planet Fitness at 7 a.m. That will arrive on your email doorstep. And don't forget to buy a Toyota Audio Vault. Also there 24 hours a day for anything you miss, anything you need. You can download the TuneIn Radio app and listen from anywhere in the world. We're out on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.